What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 10 edition of NFL DFS Game Theory Thursday. We have Ben and Matt on this week. Sam, I gave him the week off because of the Masters. He was grinding hard all week. Gave him the week off. Bales is on vacation. So we just got us two. I can't believe I said Week 10. I can't believe that we're at Week 10. This is insane.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
what to
nuts.
do. I don't know what to do. It feels weird because Masters is in November. So I don't know what to
Yeah,
do about that. But football's flying by. This is actually I think a fun tournament slate. I don't know. Cash games kind of got chalked with this Mike Davis thing, which Anthony and I talked about on the cash process. We were hoping that didn't happen, but it did. So we will dive into that later. When we get to the positional plays, we're gonna stick to our normal format. Talk about some games, best games of the week, and then we'll get to those plays. Before we get into that, Matt, how are you doing? I haven't been on a pod with you in a minute.
yeah. It's been a little while. I think you remember last week I like pretty much took a week off.
Yep.
And even the week before I was like, I don't know, I've been busy with work and stuff, and like I was gonna do. I mean, I can't do a full week off, right? That was my
Right.
plan,
Right.
And I'm like, first time in like I don't know 6 years. But of course I threw a bunch in kind of last minute, and I actually, I profited last week and made money. The week before when I went light, I didn't. It was just stupid, like late last minute thing. But I don't know, man. I got to tell you, like it's cool. It feels good. Like I really do feel refreshed. I mean that first when you're not used to grinding and you just grind 8-9 weeks in a row, like man, it's tough. So yeah, for me it was a nice little reset and ready to print this week, dude. I don't remember. How did you do last week? How did your cash core do?
I got chalked from Justin Jackson, so that was fun.
Oh my God, that's right, dude. It was the
Yeah.
Justin Jackson.
It was
Oh my
super
God.
unlucky. I actually went back and looked. I was reviewing. I do the same thing every week. Like I have obviously people I study. I see what they ran, in cash games. Just try and learn
Yeah.
always. And I actually had pretty much the same lineup as some really smart players when I went back, so I felt a little bit better about it. It was
Yeah.
just super unlucky, man. When someone gets hurt on the first play of the game, it's like,
I totally forgot about that. That was so brutal. So brutal.
yeah, we were
So we're
looking.
moving
I
on.
mean, yeah, I gotta move on for sure. Get that out of
Yeah.
my mouth. But all right, first game we're gonna talk about is Bills and Cardinals. Over under opened at 52. It's up to 56. This is the game of the week. I think honestly, I think both of these teams play relatively fast. We saw the Bills kind of came out last week, and I just loved their game plan. Man, they didn't run the ball hardly at all, and Josh Allen's super efficient in the pass game, and they just carved up a really bad defense. So I love what Brian Dable did with the game plan heading into last week. I think both of these teams are willing to play at a fast pace. So I think it is the game of the week. Trey White was back at practice today, so I don't think we need to worry about that. But there's going to be a lot of plays from this game. So I'll let you start, and you can tell me kind of how you're looking at this game.
Yeah. I mean, this is a dream game. Like you said, it's by far the best paced game of the week. And I think that Buffalo is absolutely going to take the same approach. I mean, they played a Seattle team at home where they knew Russ is just going to drop a ton of points on them no matter what happens. So they just came out fighting. It's kind of like throwing the first punch type of thing. And I don't see how they don't do the same thing. I mean, now they're traveling on the road, to Arizona. It's dome games, going to be obviously perfect conditions, and they know that Kyler's going to 100% put points up on them. So I think it just sets up. I actually hit the over as soon as the line opened, and I'd love to see the movement, where it's gone now. So yeah, I think you have to like be all over this game. It's just I mean, two players last week hit the 100-yard rushing bonus, and one of them was Kyler Murray, and the other was Dal Cook. But he's just becoming like the Konami like cheat code play, and I mean he's going to be my cash quarterback. I think for sure I'm going to be playing him in GPPs too. And my takes on this, I mean, I have like this like the most in-depth research I've done, and it's all on the wide receivers. I think obviously if Drake sits, you can play Edmonds for sure. I'm not interested in the Bills running game. But so this is like the biggest thing I wanted to hash through with you on the pod. I'm gonna talk through the wide receiver plays, and you kind of give me your feedback. So I'll start with the Bills. Obviously Diggs is like, the alpha play. His floor is outstanding. I'm not worried about the matchup with Pat Pete. That's the type of a cornerback now that Diggs and his route running he can just dust. And his floor is amazing. He's extremely expensive. But I'm really, really, really liking John Brown, not just not because of revenge game narrative coming back to Arizona, but I mean, he is outpacing Diggs in the red zone and inside the 10 for targets. And John Brown has missed 2 games. So to me, that was really shocking to hear that he's already getting, on the year, more red zone looks, more looks inside the 10. And last week, this is one of those things. If you're just looking at box scores, John Brown got stopped at the 1 yard line, and he finished with 99 yards. So that means had he gone 1 yard further, he would have got the 3-point bonus for the 100 yards, and he would have got a touchdown. I mean, he would have literally had 9 points more. He would have finished the week with 27 points instead of 18. I think that he'd be like a massive, massive chalk play, going into this week. And last couple runs I've looked at as far as ownership projections, I mean, John Brown is not up there at the top, man. I'm seeing him sub 8, sub 10% ownership. And I just think that, okay, he's a good player. You got the revenge narrative. He's deep shots, of course, always getting deep shots, but he's also getting these red zone looks, more so than Diggs. He got stopped at the 1. I just think that John Brown, for me, I think is the better play given ownership, given price. So that's one thing I want to throw back to you. Then my other take is that I'm kind of leaning Kirk over D-Hop, which is crazy. But yes, you do have the Trey White matchup on D-Hop. I'm not sure that I'm really worried about that. And I will say, people are going to look at the box score and see that Hopkins had 3 targets. But he had 4 DPIs called against him, so those pass interference penalties don't count. So that would have been 7 targets. But my data on Kirk is that, similar story to John Brown. This is the more diminutive, deep threat type of receiver, but he has 5 red zone targets to Hopkins 3. And all of Kirk's are all inside the 10. So all 5 of his red zone targets are actually inside the 10. And that leads the team. So he's actually 3rd in the league, by the way, for touchdowns inside the 10 is Christian Kirk. So I'm in this weird space where I'm kind of preferring Christian Kirk and John Brown over these dominant kind of alpha receivers in D-Hop and Steph Diggs. So I want to throw it to you. Am I crazy? Because I know that won't be the normal thing to do this week, but what do you think?
No, I love the red zone stats you just brought with Kirk, because if you think about Christian Kirk in particular, he has higher upside in terms of getting like a deep ball as well. So if you're telling me that he's going to get more work inside the 10 and you feel better about him catching a deep one than you do Hopkins, he does just seem like a better play for the price, especially if obviously you would anticipate Hopkins having more ownership than him. So I think that's a really good call. I do have both of them written down in my cash game pool as of now. Brown.
Okay.
So I was kicking myself last week. I really wanted to play John Brown in cash all week, and I ended up not doing it. I'm actually glad I didn't, though, because had I played him in cash, even though he scored a lot, I would have been super. That would have just added to my tilt of him getting tackled. It would have just been. It would have been even worse. But I do like both of them a lot. Diggs, I think I prefer Diggs to Hopkins if you're picking one of the expensive guys.
Okay.
Like you said,
is
he
it
kind of
white factor? Okay.
I mean, I'm not super worried about that, but I do like the matchup better against Peterson, obviously, than White, and I think that Kyler doesn't have these massive games through the air, rarely, right? A lot of his work comes on the ground, which is fine. But I've seen Josh Allen, right? We saw Josh Allen last week have this massive game through the air, and if we think this shoots out, I think that that's how that's going to come. So I think that both Brown and Diggs can have big games, whereas it would probably be one of Kirk or Hopkins unless Kyler really went off. But I can never count on him going for 400 passing yards, right?
What are you seeing as far as, I mean, is Kyler even going to be that much more owned than Josh Allen this week, or is it going to be kind of the same? Do you think?
Yeah, early from what I looked at ownership projection wise, they had him about the same. I do think people will want to chase the Josh Allen game because Josh Allen was actually kind of he was 20% owned last week and had a really good game.
Yeah.
So people will just go right back to him. But I think those are probably going to be the highest 2 owned for sure. I do think the best spot for leverage in this game, I think, is Edmonds. I know he can get trolled by Kyler pretty easily, and that's probably why I won't end up playing him in cash games. But, dude, if you just had the blind player up and you had no idea who it is, and you told me someone at 6,300 got 28 touches last week,
Yeah,
you would be playing that guy in cash games like 100%, right?
for
But
sure. With the team total that's in place and everything
yeah,
else,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
highest over under the week, big team
Yeah,
total, and he got 28 touches, and no one wants to play him because he only had
dude.
11 DraftKings
Yeah,
points.
he was on the field for 96% of snaps last week. Chase Edmonds. I mean,
And we think that
yeah,
we think Chase Edmonds is good, right? So it's kind of
yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah,
yeah. So I
yeah.
think
I
he's a
mean,
really good tournament play.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, we need the Drake news. That goes without being said. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that he's not going to be cash played, but it's just because of what the value that's opened up at cash at this point. But a couple weeks ago, I think Evans had a 1 yard touchdown. I mean, they're going to feed him down low if Murray doesn't just take it. But yeah, man, I like the call. Yeah, I think for sure. Based on ownership, we need to be looking at Edmonds now.
Yeah. Bills backfield, we can avoid this, right? I don't want to touch that. I don't think.
Yeah, I like Zach Moss. Like I really do. And I mean, they just kind of committed to him last week, in a big way for the kind of pretty much the first time all year. I think he's more talented personally, especially for how they would use him. But you have the same type of risk. You have the Josh Allen inside the 5 carry. I think he's third in the league, and rushing touchdowns inside the 5. He's just he's a big risk. So I'm not so sure that. And by the way, his snap, was still 56% last week for Zach Moss. I mean, he finally kind of out touched and out snapped Singletary. But yeah, you probably shouldn't really be touching with Zach Moss, especially on PPR sites.
Yep, I agree. The next game we're going to talk about is Seahawks Rams over under 54.5. This is down a point since opening. So I think one of the hot topics of this week is what to do with Jared Goff, because the Seahawks have been the go-to in terms of playing a quarterback against them all season, right? I mean, they've been
Mhm.
horrible defensively. They're allowing these massive games. We played Jimmy G against them a few weeks ago. So obviously, you would be a lot of people played Josh Allen against them last week. So you would think that you would want to go with Jared Goff this week. Tough for me to consider a quarterback on a team that's averaging over 30 rush attempts per game. That's just me. Although the matchup, I can't argue the matchup. So this is an interesting spot, and I
Mhm.
think that will be a popular debate. I think Goff might actually end up getting some traction in tournaments, but we'll see. How are you attacking this game? Because I think Seattle, like, it's kind of straightforward, right? Like, outside of the backfield situation, which we'll see on in terms of injury news later on the week, like, you have Russell Wilson, you have Tyler Lockett, you have DK Metcalf. Like, that's really their offense. And David Moore can mix in and catch a touchdown once in a while, but all of the volume is going to go to DK and Lockett. So it's really easy,
Mhm.
to decipher that. You don't really have to dig too deep into that situation. The Rams are a little bit more tricky, but I don't know. I much prefer the Cardinals Bills game to this game, personally.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I, I'm just not. I'm not on golf. I really in any format. I like his playmakers, and I think without question, Bob Woods and Cooper Kupp are absolutely playable. And I would not hate on anyone playing either one of those two in cash either. Uh, so definitely don't mind it in tournaments. But yeah, I mean they love running. He's not even in. I mean he's near. I think either bottom of the league or bottom 4, bottom 3. That is Goff as far as pass attempts inside the 10. I mean, once they get down low, they're running the football. It's just what they like to do. Daryl Henderson, while he didn't practice Wednesday, they said he's good to go for this week. He's their team's big time red zone back now, even though he was kind of charted out to be kind of a Alvin Kamara type prototype. But yeah, I mean, I think that people easily get tricked kind of by the matchup and the tools that he has as far as the playmakers. But I just think that his range of outcomes it has so many underwhelming games where they're doing jet sweeps to Robert Woods for a touchdown like he's done twice this year and handing it off to people and down low. So I just think that you don't need to go with Goff. I think that if people do play him in cash, I mean I think that's profitable for everyone else. So we were talking about this before the game where a lot of the cash builds don't really lean towards these plays in this game, at least for me. But I think in tournaments we have to be looking at a lot of these pieces. I've kind of like tricked myself into playing Tyler Lockett more than I feel comfortable with this year, and of course, Neither time I think I played him twice, and neither time I played him was it his blow up game. So it's like I haven't gotten that right. And you and I all season have been saying like, kind of just always go DK. He's just better. He's a freak, and I think that this hopefully should be the same. I know we got Jalen Ramsey in coverage, but he hasn't been shadowing this year, and they've been moving him all around the formation. So it's not as if I think they're going to just put a lockdown shadow on DK, and DK is the type that can beat anyone. And the other thing, I was a little worried that Rams coming off a bye, they're rested. Typically, maybe it's more in my mind more than anything, but I like the trench war for the team that's well rested, coming off bye rest. I mean, the trench battle is pure just strength and endurance. And I was worried about pressure on Russell Wilson, especially after being sacked so many times last week against the Bills. And I'm like, well, that's going to hurt the deep ball development, for DK. But looking back at film last week, like DK has his route tree is really expanding, man. Like he's got the slants and and posts worked into his game now. So it's not like he just streaks and every play. So if I do get exposure to the Seattle passing game, I'm just moving on and sticking with DK. I mean, I love him as a player too. I hate not playing him and seeing him go off. On the other side, I don't know if you agree, but I just think Bob Woods is a better play this week. For probably the main reason is ownership. I mean, Cooper Kupp's looking to be a majorly owned player, and mostly because of his 21 targets, in Miami before the bye. But that was a 61 pass attempt game for Jared Goff. That is way, way, way above average for him. And that obviously elevated Kupp. And Miami has kind of a slot, it's kind of annoying to say, but kind of like a slot funnel defense with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard on the outside. So it just kind of lent itself to be a Cooper Kupp game, but it hasn't really been that all year. Robert Woods is getting way more really, he gets like one to three handoffs a game, it seems like. And Robert Woods is leading the team in red zone looks, so he's getting the money looks. It's going to be the best matchup possible, facing the Seattle pass defense. So for me, I am fading Goff. I am playing DK and Robert Woods. What are you looking at for this game?
No, I'm in agreement with you. I think that like DK Lockett, I think is going to be the highest owned guy in this game probably. Which is funny, man. DFS is funny. But like 3-4 years ago, I don't think that would have been the case. But if you look at it last week, Lockett was mega chalk coming off of a big DK game.
Yeah.
And Lockett, he got tackled at the one, and he kind of dropped one in the end zone. So he could have had a bigger game, but he didn't have a big game at all last week. And I still think he's going to be really high owned again this week. So, people understand and they know basically where the good plays are going to be. But yeah, I'll take DK every time that he's low owned. It just sucks that the one time, like Lockett, I feel like has been chalk like 4 or 5 times this year. And it was like the one time I didn't play him was the 150 and 3 touchdown game. And now everyone is going to be chasing that for the rest of the season. So it's going to really be tough to be overweight on him the rest of the year just because people are going to continue to chase that. So I'll take DK. I like Woods more than Kupp as well, especially because you kind of nailed it. But he does mix in and get some rushing attempts as well, which does higher his floor a little bit, especially when he scored on 2 of them. I know that's kind of a fluky stat, not something we can really predict, but it does help out a little bit.
What about Chris Carson? I mean, what do you think about the Seattle running game? I mean, it's there's a lot of points to be scored, but it's kind of crazy right now with all the injuries.
Yeah, so if Carson was in, I would be interested in him. If he's out, like, I don't know, Dallas just hasn't looked that good to me. They did kind of mix in Homer a little bit more last week, so I think it would be closer to what we saw last week. Obviously, he did score, close, got in the red zone, but I don't know. I like the point that you made about the Rams coming off a bye, and every time I had that game on last week, it did look like Russ was under tremendous pressure. So I don't know if their line is going to be any healthier than it was last week. We'll have to dig into that. Closer we get to Sunday, but Aaron Donald going against whatever I saw last week, because the Bills had not been great defensively before last week, and they were in Russell Wilson's face all day. So I am concerned about, that matchup. It's still Russ, like it's not like I'm saying he's gonna have a bad game. Like I still want to play Russell Wilson in tournaments, I think. If I don't have much of this game in cash, but it is at least somewhat of a concern. I don't really know, like I don't know, Rams backfield, I'm not super interested in there. It's
Nah, you
really
can't
like,
trust it. Yeah, you
yeah.
can't trust it.
I mean, if one of them was out, I mean, even then, it's just I don't know. It's not that.
Yeah, I mean Henderson's gonna play. It's a disaster. I mean Henderson's gonna play.
Yep.
They still feed Malcolm Brown. It's just like it's and they're trying to mix in Akers, and every week you get the Sean McVay coach speak about like, oh yeah, we definitely are gonna get Cam Akers more involved, and then they don't. And I don't know. I you can't really touch it.
What was their logic with drafting Cam Akers so high? I just don't understand.
So weird, especially after like everyone pointing towards Henderson as like, hey, now we have an excuse to
Yeah,
use this super talented guy. Now that Gurley's gone, I don't know, man. It's that was weird, really,
yeah,
really weird.
definitely.
It's such an expendable position too. That was bizarre.
Definitely a good tournament game though. Last game we're gonna talk about. We're only talking about three this week because some of these other high total games like Jacksonville, Green Bay, I don't know. It's just not that good of a game outside of the Packers side, obviously, and then Browns
Mhm.
Texans is gross as well in my opinion. And I mean, there's some good
Yeah,
pieces there, but overall as a game, kind
right.
of gross. And I think it's going to
Yep.
be raining and really windy here, which it's Thursday night, so I don't have any actual date on that, but I think it's going to be. So we're going to talk about
Okay.
Panthers and Bucks. This is actually a pretty good game. We have a really chalky player here, which we'll talk about, but total for this game is at 50.5. Antonio Brown is back, and his team. It was just so funny. His first game, they just get absolutely blown out. It's hilarious to
Yeah.
me. But I'm not someone that hates on Antonio Brown like everyone else. I really don't care that much. But the chalky play that we're talking about is McCaffrey's out, so Mike Davis, DraftKings just made a massive mistake. I haven't even checked his price on FanDuel because I kind of wait till later on in the week to look at FanDuel. I haven't even checked, but DraftKings left him at 4K, which makes no
Yeah.
sense to me. So he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate. So I guess my question to you before we dive into the game, can you play him in tournaments at his ownership? Because I don't think the matchup, I don't think the
Yeah. Of
matchup is
course.
great. Like you're playing him in
Nah.
cash, but I mean, do you want to play him in tournaments?
Yep. I do on DK. I do it. By the way, he's 5.4 on FanDuel.
Okay.
So
Still,
still super. I mean,
yeah,
super
still
cheap.
way too cheap.
You know, I think you can, man. I think that man, 4K. I, I don't know if I even care about that. I mean, that matchup, and Tim. I mean, they're still great against the run for sure.
$400
Um,
less than the Steelers defense for what it's worth.
yeah, man. I just and like I don't know. I'll get into a little bit on Mike Davis eventually, but I mean the basic thing is because of DK being full PPR. I mean Tampa is giving up the most catches to running backs in the league this year. So they're bottling them up on the run and they're settling out for the run, but they're just letting them catch it, left and right. And I think that with really no pressure to speak of at all from Carolina, Tom Brady's going to have a lot of time, and we can talk through his receiving options. But I think that Tampa should put up points, and man, they're just going to be flipping it, to Davis all game. And we already know he gets all the goal line carries, when CMC is out. I just think that, if he was back up to his 58, 63 number, I mean, I think probably no one would play him in any format, maybe. But I think that you guys got to play him in every four. I am. I mean, I'll do a high dollar GPP, and I'm still going to keep him in there personally.
Yeah, it's just hard for him on DraftKings not to hit value at 4K.
Yeah.
Not like you even
and,
need a
and,
big
and he
game,
could go off. And then if he goes off, you're dead if you don't have him.
Yep.
Like he could absolutely get 23 points, like absolutely. And if you don't have 23 points from 4K, you're done.
Yeah, people will try and get cute for sure, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I'll tell that's like an actual free square. I know we joke about free squares all the time, but
Oh, it is.
Mike Davis at 4K is probably a free square, so I'll just take it and figure the
Yeah.
rest out. Other Panthers, I don't know. Like the Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore thing is tough for me. Not a great matchup for them, or Teddy Bridgewater. So I'm definitely not playing two Panthers in one lineup, right? So if I'm gonna play, another one, I mean Anderson is probably the better play. DJ Moore has a strong history against this defense, so it's kind of I could go either way with that one. I like DJ Moore as a player. Robbie Anderson has clearly been their number one at least in terms of uh all the targets and whatnot. I don't know. I'm not playing two Panthers in one lineup though, so I'll avoid that. The Bucks receivers are a mess, man. It's tough to figure that
Yeah.
out. Like you feel like you're throwing darts. I want to keep chasing the Antonio Brown game. I played a bunch of him in
Ah,
Showdown on Sunday. I do want to chase it
yeah.
just because I've seen it. Brady, I want to get your thoughts on Brady because I think my favorite two plays from the Bucks are actually probably Brady and Leonard Fournette. I think is really interesting in tournaments, but I'll give me your Brady take because I do think he's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. So he is interesting, and I'm not, I don't I don't want to say it, but a lot of people will say angry Brady. Ugh, kill me,
Dude,
dude.
I know. I said this on the cash press. I was like, Anthony, how many times are we going to hear angry Brady this week?
Angry Brady. Okay, okay. Yeah. So other than that, yeah. Here's what we don't know. Either it was just a bad game and a tough matchup last week, and he just got just absolutely destroyed, or maybe he's like falling off. I mean, it's absolutely possible given his age. So it's really really tough. I mean, most of the year he's looked spry. I mean, he's looked good. So I guess probably it's just a bad game and a tough matchup last week. But um, I do like it. I think that it's going to be hard to stack him though, right? I mean, Fournette should get some catches, and they're kind of just moving on more to Fournette now, away from Ronald Jones. And Ronald Jones has been really underperforming lately. But um, I mean I love Chris Godwin, and I don't know that he's the best play, or if I just really like him, and I'm just going to let my bias fly into it. And you look on the matchups, you see he's going up against a man named Corn Elder. Um, I mean, his name is Corn Elder, and he's not that good. So you kind of want to play that. I mean, it's like I don't know. I mean, on the outsides, they're pretty vulnerable too. Dante Jackson and Russell Douglas. So I just think that there's risk if you're stacking him in tournaments. It's like you could absolutely get. I mean, you can get two of those 1 yard Mike Evans touchdowns. Maybe AB does show something after another week of practice. I don't know, man. I mean, if you're playing Brady, who are you stacking him with?
I think that Godwin is the safest on DraftKings
Mm.
specifically. I think he's probably the safest guy, but dude, I don't know. I want to keep chasing. I would probably just chase
AB.
Antonio Brown and just make the most fishy lineup of all time and not care about it. But
I don't
yeah.
think
So
is he going to be owned? You think he's really going to be owned?
no, I don't think
I
he'll
don't
be
think
on.
he is.
I don't think
Yeah, I
he'll be
don't.
on.
So like you say, it's fishy, but like I don't know if it's low owned and he does go off. It's like that's
Yeah.
sharp as hell.
And
You
we've
know, it's
seen it,
like
like my mind just flashes back to him catching that pass from Brady against Miami last year. Like in the one game he played for the Patriots,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
there. So Brady's quarterback rating under pressure 54.8. So, dude, he's so bad under pressure. He's like Baker Mayfield like esque under pressure, just horrible. You
Yeah.
pointed out Panthers, they have literally non-existent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Like they can't get any pressure at all. So I do think it's a good matchup. I think he's going to throw obviously multiple touchdowns.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can take a stab on the Brady stack in tournaments. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, Gronk, I know he's been getting more and more looks.
Yep.
Pull up the red zone targets. I mean, he just targets him down low, which, makes sense, obviously. Um, let's see. Yeah. I mean, he's right behind Mike Evans. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as targets inside the 10, it's 8 to Evans and 6 to Gronk. And obviously Godwin has missed, some games this year. So that certainly factors in. But yeah, this really could be a game where Carolina can keep up. I mean, they got a decent offense, but yeah, I mean, you know what? Chris Godwin's missed one, two, three, four games this year. Um, I think you can't really go wrong. I'm not a big Mike Evans guy. And I think, what's happened since the beginning of the year, well, he's starting to shift more. So like Mike Evans was hot, early, and now he's coming on more to Gronk in red zone. So I think you can probably fade Mike Evans and maybe, play Godwin or Antonio Brown and just pray. I like that. I'll play AB with you this week, dude. I
All
like
right,
it.
let's do it. I actually kind of like it, so I'm not actually tilting. I actually like that. That'll probably be one of my three max builds. But we
I
will
like it.
move. Actually, we got to talk about Fournette real quick. Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know what your take is here. I think he is clearly better than Ronald Jones. I think that he's going to keep
Yeah.
running ahead of Ronald Jones in terms of getting the bulk of the work. He is capable in the passing game, and the Panthers give it up, obviously on the ground, but they give it up to backs receiving out of the backfield as well. So I think he's around that same price as Duke Johnson. Like, I think he's a really good pivot in tournaments off of Duke Johnson.
That's an amazing pivot off of Duke
And
for
then
sure.
you don't have to play Brady or AB because you just play him.
Right. Yeah, I like that a lot actually. What is the team total? I'm just trying to flip to it. Team total for Tampa. Yeah, dude, it's 28.25 team total. That's huge.
Yep. Yeah,
Like
I think that's a
that's
good
really
play.
yeah. I think you. So that dude, 28 point team total. Are they? And they're on a that horror game. Was that a Thursday night game or is that a what kind of prime time was that? Trying to look.
Uh, Sun
Sunday night.
Sunday night. Yeah.
Sunday. Okay, so
Yeah,
they're not
dude.
on
And
that.
I'm just looking. So you remember that Fournette burst a big runoff earlier this year, right? Pulled
Yeah,
away for a touchdown. Yeah, it was against Carolina in week 2. How
yeah,
fitting. 30 DraftKings points,
yeah, man.
and no one will play two running backs in the same game. So no one's playing Fournette,
That's such a good point too. Exactly right. Mike Davis on the other side.
which it doesn't
Which I
matter
don't. Why
because
not? Yeah,
because
Davis is a
Davis is catching
receiver.
passes. So what does it matter? Yeah.
Yeah, against the team that gives up the most, catches to running backs in the league. I kind of like that a lot. The Fournette calls that's nasty. That's a great call. I mean, massive, massive team total. Man, I like that.
So this is someone you can put him in like a chalkier build, right? Like you don't have to get too weird. Just get some good plays that are chalk, and then just use Fournette instead of Duke Johnson or something like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about Duke when we get to the running back section, but yeah, for sure, I like that call.
All right, we'll move to the positional plays now. So we'll go through cash game plays, and then we'll go back through tournament plays at each position. So quarterbacks, for me, it's kind of the same. I haven't really changed much here. I think it's Kyler or Josh Allen for cash games, which is kind of what we talked about earlier this week. But I really am just locking Kyler in because I think he's like $1,000 too cheap still.
Yeah, you have to. It's just Kyler for me, for sure.
Yep. Running backs, we have another one of these weeks where I think it's very clear where people are going in cash games, and that is Mike Davis, Aaron Jones, and Duke Johnson. I think those three. I can't believe Duke Johnson's gonna be chalk after I like jokingly said the stars were aligning for him, but they actually. It's
They really
hilarious
are.
that it has to come against the Browns too. Like
And Houston's, yeah.
it's just perfect. So I think everyone's playing those three guys in cash games. Do you have anyone else you would throw in there?
As far as cash for running backs, I mean, no. I know that Kamara was getting some talk. Obviously almost 30-point home team total against just a battered defense of San Fran. But with Mike Thomas back now and all the ridiculous Taysom Hill and Lat Murray work down low, I think that I won't play Alvin Kamara in cash. Other than that, I honestly thought about James Conner for like a heartbeat, in cash. I just think he's due for a big bounce back game. Really good matchup against Cincy. I'm not sure. I think I'd still rather prefer obviously Ben at quarterback, assuming he plays. The offense will be that much more productive. But obviously, I mean, Connor was really productive for most of the year. And I think he's just a huge bounce back spot, and he's cheap. So I thought about that, but no, I'm probably gonna be a fish and just play Duke, Jones, and Davis.
Yep.
Duke, I mean, I don't know. He got a 1 yard touchdown, right? He's gonna get that work. He got like all the snaps. It's a pretty good matchup. The team total's kind of brutal. I mean, I was kind of shocked to see a 22-point team total for Houston, and their offense has been just awesome in the last few weeks. But it's going to be kind of hard to pass up, I guess.
Yeah, so receiver, I think the conversation gets way more interesting at receiver.
Yeah.
Especially if we're spending like if we're taking a 4K running back and a sub 6K running back, like you're gonna have some money to spend at receiver. So I don't know how I would necessarily rank them. I think in terms of ownership, I think Lockett is gonna be really highly owned. I like Diggs. I don't know, like in terms of spend up guys, how would you rank like these top guys? I don't know, like for cash, it's just tough. Like I think Keenan is number one cash play for me. Like not even
There you go.
close. Yeah,
There
like
you
I
go.
think that he's number one. But I do
Yep.
think Lockett's gonna have a lot of ownership. But I think
Like, dude,
Keenan's probably
Keenan.
number one.
Yeah, Keenan's facing an undrafted free agent out of UTEP in the slot with really good, and he's not only in the slot. I mean, it's not even this year. It hasn't even been the majority. It's more, I guess, technically a plurality of his snaps in the slot. But the perimeter corners are good, and Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, and we saw last week, with Cooper Kupp getting 21 targets to that slot. I think they're going to do that again this week. And then they have issues at running back. I mean, Jackson, I think he's out officially again, right?
Yeah, he's not gonna play. And
Yeah.
dude,
So I don't, yeah.
I have to play Keenan in DFS all the time because I ran so bad in season long. I know nobody cares about season long, but I completely faded him in season long because of Tyrod Taylor. And then Tyron
Right.
Taylor just, this
And
weird
then
stuff
Herbert took off.
happens. Yeah, and then now, I mean, just anyone with Keenan Allen has ran so pure with Herbert taking
Keenan's
over.
such a ridiculous route runner. Isn't it funny how the best route runners are just the best receivers? Like
Yeah.
Devontae Adams, Steph Diggs, Keenan Allen, Mari Cooper. These guys are all just freaks at running routes, and they're also like the best, receivers in football. So yeah, I Keenan for sure, with a bullet. I really am totally fine playing Christian Kirk in cash and John Brown in cash. Like I know it's weird, they're low owned. I don't care though. I mean, the game's amazing, the matchup is good, the stats are there, the snaps are there, the looks, like they're fine cash plays. They don't have to be highly owned to be a cash play, I think. And again, it seems weird because they're both like short, like burner guys, but they're good to go for sure in cash. The other one that I'm probably going to play Terry McLaurin in cash, which
Yeah, I
is
was gonna say, I know you like
so
Terry a
not
lot, so
me.
talk about him.
Yeah, it's just so not like my style to play, Terry in the spot in cash and just kind of Terry in general. But like he's so good, man, and like he hasn't had good quarterbacks all year. Like, this is Alex Smith now. Who cares? It's not like Kyle Allen was better than Alex Smith, and obviously Haskins was a disaster for most of the year. But like, yeah, he had the close relationship with Terry, but Terry's just so good. He's going in a dome against a brutal Detroit team. And he's like the only game in town. Like, look at it from a receiving standpoint, he's like far and away, the alpha. And I'd just rather play Terry versus trying to like flip coins between Lockett and DK, or flip a coin between Cooper and Woods and like hope that my gut is right. No, like I'll just play Terry. Like the problem with when people are playing cash, they think they have to get like a truly optimal. No, you don't. You just got to beat half the field, And I think that there's so many times you're going to get the Lockett, DK, Cooper Cup, Woods thing wrong. I mean, you're going to get it wrong probably half the time. Whereas,
Yep.
like, you're not going to get Terry wrong. Terry's Terry, So I'm like 90% sure I'm playing Terry in cash right now.
Yeah, that's a great call. And then yeah, I think the cheap guys, like, you're not gonna need any punt like 3K guys this week with the running backs we're playing. So I think John Brown and
Right.
Kirk are probably the guys in the 5K range I would consider. Tight
Yeah.
end, I mean, we like to save here at tight end. I really like Dallas Goddard. I know you kind of aren't on him as much as I am. I really like him at 4,200. And then I like your call, which we talked about before we got on here, Austin Hooper. I'll let you talk about him a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think it's Goddard for me right now.
Yeah, I get the Goddard thing. And like my gut thing when I first looked at pricing for the week, I was like, oh, Goddard, for sure. But, the offense is not that good. You know, they spread the touchdown equity so wide. They get a 23-point team total. I think Giants win this game, by the way, outright. I think they're 3 or 3.5 point dogs, I believe. Or is actually I got to check. Maybe they're favorites. I just remember thinking the Giants. Yeah, no, they're 3.5 point dogs. I think Giants win, but I don't know. Like Goddard, I get it. No urge. I just think so. To me, I think that's like it's an obvious play, but I think it's like a gotcha situation. So, anyways, the other potential cash plays, you can play Evan Ingram for sure. He's getting a ton of work, a ton of looks. It's a really good matchup against Philly. You can absolutely play him. You can play Noah Fant as long as Fant continues to be healthy and they have no more. Was it Albert O or Alex O, whatever the hell his name was,
Yeah,
the teammate of Drew Lock,
Alberto.
Albert O, whatever, man. I mean, whatever. That guy came in and just like stole red zone looks, so he's out. So you can play Noah Fant for sure. I would argue. I mean, Waller's always cash playable, but for me, it's Austin Hooper. He had a lot of rapport building, with Baker before he got hurt. He was on the field for 80+% of snaps. He's getting a lot of looks, getting, score. He was scoring. I mean, so Hooper was really coming into form. Then he got hurt, and then obviously, we had Harrison, tear it up for me that 1 week, 2 touchdowns, for Cleveland. But what also has happened is OBJ is out, for the year now. So they lost, a big piece in their passing game. They're going to have to pass against Houston. Houston's terrible. And I just think that, it was 3.9, good team total at home. They're going to have to pass. He's one of the returning weapons, and he's good to go from his minor surgery that he had. So, yeah, I think that I'm just locking in Hooper and hoping I get that, a similar type of line that he was getting before he got hurt.
No, I actually think that's a great call, and I do think obviously we would expect the Browns to put up points. They've really smashed against bad teams this year,
Mm.
so we can expect them to put some points up.
Yeah, his last 3 games that he played targets 6, 10, and 7. Austin Hooper, and that was with Odell Beckham in the game. So I think that if you can honestly look at a floor target of like 7+, I mean, I think that's a really good spot.
Yep. So we'll go through some tournament plays now. Quarterback.
Yeah.
Who I don't know who you like. I don't know if you. I wanted to get your take on Watson a little bit. I know that team total's gross, but man, I know the Browns are coming off a bye, but I just don't really trust their
Mhm.
defense at the moment. So I want to get your take on him, and he does have some rushing upside. And then Brady, I already kind of talked about. I think Brady, like I think you can play. I don't know, like Rodgers is just not someone that I typically play. So I don't know if you like him. If I was gonna pick one guy other than Brady, it's probably Herbert, just because I'll play him every week.
Yeah, for sure. I like Herbert, and he's shown us some ability on the ground too. He had that one game a few weeks ago against Jacksonville with 66 rushing yards and a touchdown. I mean, so he has that in him. In the last 2 weeks, he's had 20+ yards rushing. I think Herbert for sure will be GPP playable. I think you always got to play Russ Wilson in tournaments because he can just explode, and that's going to be a back and forth game. We mentioned the guys in the Arizona game, and those are GPP playable too. I'm not going to play Rodgers. I don't think. If I'm playing a GPP quarterback, I want to at least know that there's like a decent likelihood that they're going to have to pass for a big chunk of the game, and 14-point favorites or whatever it is against Jacksonville, the backup quarterback. It's just it's rough. Um, you know, Lazard might come back, and I might be a little bit interested in the Lizard King. He'd be like 4K, I think, man. Like I think that people might be surprised. I don't know. We'll see. I might be coming to the Discord chat with the lizard emojis come Sunday. We'll see. But yeah, for me, I think Deshaun Watson absolutely is in play because you're going to have natural leverage. You're going to have a lot of people obviously playing Duke Johnson, and you look at what Deshaun Watson has done the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's been like right behind a Kyler Murray with I mean, here's his last 5 games: 24, 27, 35, 30. Yeah, I mean he's 100% playable GPP, and there's leverage because the running back, that's getting all the ownership. So, Fuller gets a touchdown every game. Cooks is a burner, can absolutely crush. We got to look at the weather for sure, like you mentioned. But I think Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson probably is my favorite GPP play. He'd be close with Russ because Russ is Russ. But yeah, for sure, love Watson.
Yeah, running back. Kind of talked about Fournette. I've kind of come on to him as we've been talking about it. I think James Robinson is a good play in tournaments always because he's one of the few guys that I know is getting all the work. Pretty much, he's going to be involved in the passing game and he's going to get the rushing attempts. And it's not like Green Bay has super good run defense, right? So if Jacksonville scores any points at all, I would expect James Robinson to be involved in that. So I think he's a good play. Like I prefer him to someone like Jacobs just because Jacobs is going to get a ton of touches, but Robinson has so much more upside in the passing game, man. Like it's just I feel
For
so
sure.
much safer with someone getting targets. So I like him a little bit. I like Fournette. I don't know if I'm missing someone.
Mm, I mentioned Connor. I like him in GPPs. I think the game script I think they're going to get a lot of short fields. I think Burrow's going to probably struggle. He throws it a lot. I think that the pressure is going to be insane on him in that horrible line. So I just think that James Conner can set up for one of those crazy 2-3 touchdown games just because of game flow and everything like that, and he's due to kind of bounce back. I'm going to read up a lot on the health of Miles Sanders. I think he's going to be relatively high owned. I want to make sure that he's like really truly good to go.
I
So
need a big Miles Sanders game, man. I need it.
yeah, yeah.
That's a good call. Actually,
So
I do like him in tournaments a little bit, but like
yeah,
he won't be a secret for sure at his price. I do agree with that.
right, yeah. And then I mean you hit it earlier. I mean Chase Edmonds. If Drake's out,
Oh yeah, I talked about him
again,
so much
natural
earlier. I forgot
leverage.
to mention that, but
Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's natural leverage. It's a good matchup. I mean, for sure. I would love Edmonds in tournaments if he's going to get all the work.
receiver. So this is the conversation at receiver is definitely interesting. I don't really know like where the ownership's going to go as of right now. This will be important to check Sam's ownership projections later on in the week, but I don't know. Like Terry, I honestly think like you sold me on him, but I think you could include him in the tournament conversation as well
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't think he's going to be high owned.
Dude, all the receivers I like are going to be
I
low
know.
owned this
I
week.
think everyone we talked about in the cash game pool is not going to be
Yeah.
high owned, which is perfect. I actually like weeks like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to have my natural stack pairings that are all low owned too, like Fuller and Cooks with Watson, and I guess obviously Seattle guys are going to be high owned. But if you play a Brady and Brown or a Brady and Godwin, that's low owned too, man.
Yeah.
It's like the
Antonio
industry's
Brown, it
getting
will be in
so
my pool, man.
consolidated. Yeah, I love that. That I mean, the stupid when people say it's like I can just so see everyone be like, oh my God, AB, like I can just see that happening, and it'd be so cool to be one of the guys that rostered him. It's like, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I heard like, I mean, personally, I don't know that I would play, but like Jakeem Grant's getting talk. I like Devontae Parker, in that game. I think they're going to have to throw a lot against the Chargers, but like, I mean, Jakeem Grant, I know he's 3K. I guess that's probably why he's getting talked. But would you ever consider like a
No.
Tua stack with one of those guys, or no?
No, just because so many of the running backs I like this week are cheap. Like, even if you want to play Edmonds, he's 6,300, right? Like, playing someone at 6,300 is not going to force you to play a 3K receiver.
Ooh, I got another one.
Yeah,
Dude,
I mean,
I was
Parker, I
all
think,
over.
is fine, but
Yeah, Parker's fine. I mean, obviously they got good, boundary corners, but like last week I was all over. I played him everywhere in all my high dollar GBPs. I played Jerry Judy. He
yeah.
crushed,
If
and
he's fully healthy, he might actually
yeah,
get some ownership, but I think he's a really good play. I like that call. I'm glad you brought
for
him up.
sure. And no Alberto and taking red zone looks.
And
Drew
another
Lock.
really good route runner, as you were talking about
First,
earlier.
yeah, he's a beautiful route runner, and I know this is like so like narrative driven and stupid, but part of the reason why last week I was on Jared Judy was he was going to Atlanta, where obviously Julio plays, and there's this like I swear to God, there's this thing where when receivers like Mark Cooper and when receivers play against Atlanta, they're like, oh my God, I'm playing, in a game against Julio, and he's like the god of Bama receivers. And you just like see him in warmups. They're so jacked for those games, dude. It's like, I don't think I ever talked about that on this pod, but like I've been watching it for years now. And when you see a Bama receiver play against Julio, there's just something like that happen. I don't know, man. I know it's like way out there, but that's why I was on him. But like, we should be on him again. Like all that happened was, he got that much better with Drew for another week of practice. Drew Lock, I read he leads the league in deep targets. I mean, he just loves chucking it downfield, and another great, really good matchup against the Raiders. So I think if he's healthy, like you said, I think we got to look to him again. And I don't think he's going to be highly owned this week.
No, I agree. I think that's a really good call, honestly. Probably should be more on him than I am, so I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
Moving forward. Tight end, I don't know, man. Tournaments for tight end, like I still want to save. I think Gesicki's interesting again. I liked him last week. I think he's interesting. Gronk, Ingram, any of those guys, I think you can play. Really, I mean, you can even play Hooper in tournaments because it's like Austin Hooper's not going to be chalk.
Tight end sucks, and this is a brutal week, anyways. For it, there's like none of the top tier guys. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I've been thinking. I don't know why this is just stupid, but I've been thinking of like trying to play Tanyan. Like he has the ability to kind of go off, but like whatever, it's just kind of stupid.
Someone on Twitter has been calling him Bobby Funyuns. Whoever is calling him that, dude.
What? Yeah, I'll probably, I don't know, man. I just kind of hate tight end. It sucks. It's a terrible position. No one ever does anything from it. Like it's so stupid. Like, well, I guess. Hey, wait a minute. Last week you nutted
Irv
with
Smith.
with
Irv Smith does some stuff. Yeah, that's why.
That was a part.
I know it was, dude. It was. I just want to told Anthony, man.
Yeah.
We were so close to a historic day in Discord. Like, if Justin
know.
Jackson just doesn't get hurt, like we were so close because
I know.
how can you get a 1% owned punt tight end that scores 2 touchdowns and lose? It's like miraculous.
Dude, I did it with Harrison Bryant a few weeks ago. I had a 1% owned 2 tutty week and I lost. I was thinking like to myself, I was like,
It's
dude,
insane.
imagine not like signing up for Discord with DFS Karma. Like when we have one of those weeks going,
I know,
like
it's
you
so
have like
fun,
300
dude.
people being like, Irv Smith,
I know,
big
it's so
Irv.
People I've never seen before are typing like Irv Smith in chat. So fun.
It's the best. Anyways, yeah. But yeah, I mean, other than that call, that was the GOAT call. It kind of is a horrible position, and I don't know, man. It doesn't really matter what you pick. Pick someone with a decent total and decent matchup, and move on.
All right, that about does it. Be sure to check out dfskarma.com. Tons of free content every single week. Obviously, if you want to pick up a package, access to core plays and Discord, like we were just talking about, you can do so as well. I've said this multiple times. The time is to get in is now because Thanksgiving's coming. There is no greater day than Thanksgiving football. I think you have a pretty good history as well, but I have just
Yeah,
remarkable history of Thanksgiving football. There's
love
nothing
it.
that will beat that. But all right, give me a bold call before we head out real quick. I'm gonna put you on the
I guess
spot.
it's yeah. You did. I wasn't
I
even.
love it.
I mean, I mentioned a lot of my my favorite plays. I'm going to say Mr. Revenge, Smokey Brown goes off for 150 and 2 tutties.
Okay. All right. I'll go oh man, I don't want to do this, but Tom Brady 5 touchdown passes.
Oh,
I've sealed my fate. I got to play him now.
dude, Sam, he's gonna
Oh yeah,
he's
Sam's
gonna
going to be
love it.
like, "Oh my god, he's not going to know what to do with
Yeah.
himself." All right,
I
thank you
like it.
guys for watching. We really appreciate it. Be sure to give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching it there. You can leave us a rating